Diggity ding, it's that time again. Wassup Flobo After Hours. We're live in the treehouse. You know it's nighttime because my neon moon says it is. And with episode 46 of this, and we are in fact the award-winning Wassup Flobo After Hours. So glad to be here. Flobo Boyce, of course, is hanging out, having the time of our life. We got a very, very big show for you today. Sitting down with someone that's been so influential in my traversing of the LA landscape. Before I do, got to give a little shout out to members of the Boisterous crew. That's our Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boys. You can unlock bonus content. Every time I do a gig, I have a gig blog. There's bonus shows like Flobito's Book Club or the Flobito Saw on Netflix comedy special version. That's a mouthful. Anyway, bonus stuff and more. Patreon.com/Flobo Boys. So I have to give a shout out to Christopher C., Chrissy H., ACH, Edric P., Oliver E., Princess Leia, Matthew C., Lindsay U., Richard R. You make this show a reality. But as always, I am not alone. I'm being joined by a very special guest who is out there making it happen as a musician and also as a prominent member of her community. Please give it up for Kira Morrison. What's going on?
Hi.
So glad you're on the show. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I love that you have your own theme song too. It's very official. Okay.
Shout out to Jay Pounders, man. He's like, "What's the vibe you have? Let's do the opposite." I'm like, "Cool." This whole Bon Jovi thing, I love it. It's so sick. But how are you doing? I mean, how is 2021? I know we all survived the pandemic. You're out there creating. What's life been like for you, Kira?
It's been crazy. Like I feel like the pandemic probably brought on like some of the like biggest life changes like I've ever gone through as just like growing as a person and like really like reevaluating like my priorities in life and like what I really care about. And it's been crazy, but like I think they're all really good changes. Yeah. And yeah, I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing.
Did you pick up any weird hobbies in lockdown? Like, did you make bread too, or did you?
My sister was the bread maker. She got very into sourdough. She was making a sourdough. She was gardening. She literally had a whole like garden of vegetables in our backyard, and she would like cook amazing dinners with the vegetables, and it was amazing. Yeah. I didn't do anything as cool probably, but I got really into learning how to read tarot cards.
Oh,
yeah. I like took a whole online course and I've like never really been into that stuff, but
yeah,
I had a breakup. So I was like searching for me from the year.
Say less, fam. I got you.
I had 2 breakups over the pandemic, 2 actually.
Oh, wait, so you found someone in the pandemic. Like you went out and saw real people and then you're like, nah, this is not feeling it, fam.
Well, going into the pandemic, I was in a relationship and then I broke up with that person. And then a little while after that, I started dating again and then got into another thing with someone. Then they broke up with me. And then I met my current partner during the pandemic as well. And we're still together. So
yeah.
Third time.
I did my whole thing virtually. Yo, props, Kira. I would have been like, yo, can I download and click you later? I mean, that's what's up.
We did spend the first 2.5 months of our relationship. We did not hug or kiss.
Yeah.
We basically only dated over FaceTime, except we would see each other. We would hold hands and then sanitize our hands.
Oh, that is a product of the times. I can't knock with that. Haywood was his brief hopeless future. It's funny you mentioned Haywood because it's kind of trippy. I've only done tarot readings about 3 or 4 times in my life, all within the last year. Because this is the way it is virtually. I've always get the same card.
Like you do.
Every time someone's done a tarot reading, I've had the same card. It's the 7 of Cups. I get it. Right side up, not upside down, upside up, right side up every time. Yeah, it's weird.
Wow. Yeah. Huh.
My
that's
choices.
Very interesting.
They tell me I have choices.
Yeah. Huh. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, during pandemic, I got to this. Wassup Flobo After Hours. I get to talk to cool people like yourself. And here's the reason why I think you're so cool. We were talking about this before we went live. I actually met you performing live, and I was so enamored by the way that when you perform live out in LA, everyone's about their business. They're on their phones. They're doing their own thing. But you like committed to the bit. Like you were just like, yo, I'm going to give you 120%. I don't care if you're listening or not. How does that work for a musician to pull up to a spot like, you know, in a public area and go, look, I'm gonna give you 100% Kira?
I think I've gotten really used to doing those kinds of gigs. So like, I know for like a lot of people, it can be like very off-putting to be like, no one's watching me or like no one's paying attention. But like, I'm chill about it. I'm like, I'm just gonna perform. Like, if you want to watch, like, cool. If not, like, I guess less pressure on me. Like, I mean, I'm not like I mind attention, but yeah, I've done a lot of gigs where it's like at restaurants or like at a wedding or just kind of background music. And honestly, I'm you know, kind of fine with that. So, you know, I just like have fun with it and have a good time. And like, you know, I do appreciate when people pay attention and like it, but you know, if not, like, I'm still having fun.
Yeah, well, we're getting the story we're saying about backstage. I saw you perform, and I grabbed a business card. I thought, oh, it's pretty cool, and I kept it in my wallet to help me divide the larger and smaller bills for like 2 years.
I'm happy to be of service.
You know what I mean? So like, imagine like you're just like, oh, this is a gig, but like in my brain, I'm like, yo, I need to get Kira on my show. I mean, I see her every day because I'm always checking if there's any money in there. There isn't, but still, it's pretty awesome that you never know how you affect somebody or impact somebody.
I know.
When you perform your craft. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that.
Do you think about that when you're performing? Like, maybe if I reach one fan, if I just talk to one person in the back, or is this kind of like do my thing, focus on the craft?
It depends on the gig. Like, you know, like those kind of gigs, it's like I'm performing at a mall for the food court. Like, I'm definitely not expecting like a life-changing performance or someone to be like, whoa, you know, or like to be discovered or anything. So like in those kind of cases, I'm like, you know, like probably like the main goal is just like to provide entertainment and like a nice background music and like make some money. But yeah, I mean, I have had gigs that are, I guess I'd say like more high stakes or like situations different, or I like certain people in the audience and things like that. You know, where I have bigger goals, I would say, or like if it's like a difference between like a covers gig and like doing my original songs, or like, you know, it makes you know, a lot of difference like what the gig is exactly.
When someone books you for a covers gig, do you have like the book, or if someone's like, just give me Journey, and you have to go do all the Journey? Like, how does that work?
I have my iPad, and I just like over the years, like I've learned like a billion random pop covers and stuff. So I just keep them all. There's a very handy dandy app called Fourscore. For any musicians out there, download Fourscore, and you can keep like all your like sheet music or lyric sheets, and you can put them all in order, and you can annotate them. So I just have like, I don't know, like 5 hours worth of like cover tunes just there that I can choose from. And then, but yeah, people always make requests, so I try to accommodate most requests. Like if I've at least heard the song a decent amount of times, I can probably muster through it a little bit. But yeah, there are a lot of times where I'm like, I don't know. Or like I've heard that song once and I don't think I could actually sing it or play it.
Yeah. When people request songs, is it them being serious? Like, hey, Mick, you play this? Or is it like them memeing? Like, play Stairway. Like, is it, do you come to earnestly for a request, or?
I mean, I'd say it's a little bit of both. There are some people who are like, hey, do you know da da da? Like, this is my favorite song or artist. And I'm like, oh, cool. And yeah, sometimes people are just like, do whatever. And sometimes I'm like, I will do that. Yes.
And so you're more pop. Sorry, cut you off. Are you like pop or jazz, or like what's the genres?
Like by myself, definitely pop, because I'm not skilled enough on guitar to play jazz guitar. But I do have like a little jazz quartet that I put together like while I was in school. And we'll, you know, do restaurants and private events and stuff like that, and you know, do standards and all that good stuff.
Wow. I have no musical talent whatsoever. This is all fascinating. I mean, I DJ weddings, but like I'm not actually performing. I'm like actually okay. JLG Media
performing in a way.
A little bit, but no one's like, "Oh, DJ, sing along." The most unique place you ever performed?
Ooh, I'm sure I have a good answer for that I need time to think about. I've had a lot of like random weird gigs. Hold up.
Okay.
Let me think on this.
Boys. You even stalling key. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Props.
This is probably like not even the best answer, but it's just the one that's coming to my head. And I'm sure like after the show is over, I'll be like, oh, I should have said this. But I did once perform at the annual Lobster Festival.
Ooh.
In oh my gosh.
Maine?
Oh. No. It was here. San Pedro. I was like, where are the ports?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, the annual Lobster Festival. Very random gig. But like weirdly, like one of the biggest stages I've ever performed on. I don't know why the Lobster Festival has so much money, but they had some good funding for this stage.
I had no idea LA had a lobster festival.
There is, yeah, and it was pretty fun. I gotta say, I'm not like super into lobster, but it was cool. Yeah, one of the biggest stages I've ever performed on, but only with my like little 3-person band.
Well, I mean, that's pretty unique. Granted, I'm allergic to shellfish. I probably wouldn't get the call from them anyway. But if I did, I bet the stage is pretty awesome. But you've been doing music for a while. What was a moment you think in your life that you realized it was the passion or the path or the craft or I'm doing this full time?
I was always into it and like was learning to play guitar as a kid and all that stuff. But like when I like really got deeper into it was like probably more like in like high school. Like I started doing musical theater and like that's when I started writing my own songs and like I just was like super into it and like that's like all I wanted to do. And like thankfully like I have like really supportive parents who like they both work in the arts as well and they're like, yeah, if you want to do it, like go for it. So I went to get my degree in singing at LA College of Music and just like went and did it. Yeah.
So you got mostly buy-in. People were like, oh yeah, go for it. Or was anyone being like, yo man, if you might get a real job, it's a real job or whatever? Like,
not that many people, thankfully. Like I had like a lot of really supportive friends and like my parents and my sister were super supportive. Like definitely like a few like, I don't know, like college counselors who are like, or like, you know, that kind of thing. But overall, like everyone was really supportive, which I feel really lucky to have had that. Like definitely helped push me forward.
Oh, absolutely. People buy stock at the first day, IPO, watch it rise.
Yes.
So I think you're killing it. I know some days as a performer, we go, am I killing it? but I think you are. Is there do you keep a roster of goals? Do you do is it year by year? Do you go dream scenario? How do you plot the next steps for your career?
I definitely used to be more career goal oriented and not like I like don't have goals anymore, but yeah, I was, and like my career goals have shifted like so much. Like for like the longest time, like from like high school through like most of college, I was like very set on being like a recording artist, like doing my own original songs and like I wanted to tour my stuff and like all this stuff. But like I was in a program that was like mainly like building skills for like being like just a professional like vocalist, which doesn't always necessarily mean like a recording artist. So it's like, you know, like session singing or like being a background singer or like this and that. And like, that was always kind of like in my mind, like, oh, like a side thing. But then I actually like really enjoyed it. Like, you know, I was just doing a bunch of like different random gigs and like every gig I was like singing a different style and like playing with different people. And like, I actually like just got really into it. And then like right before I was about to graduate, I was like, oh, I don't think I like want that as a side thing. Like, I don't think I want to be a singer-songwriter anymore. Like, I want to do this. Like, because that was what was bringing me the most joy. And like the singer-songwriter thing, well, like I fully support anyone who like feels really passionate about it. For me, it's like if you're not really, really passionate about it, it's like so draining. And like, I had no joy in it anymore because I was just like hustling and like trying to get people to come to my show and buy a ticket and like stream my song. And like everyone else is trying to do it. And it's just like, I was like, this does not bring me any joy anymore. So I like shifted towards like just pursuing like freelance vocal work and like, you know, it was going pretty well. And then the pandemic hit and like, I was like, you know, I still want to pursue this and still working towards like, you know, like my dream gig is like Taylor Swift's background singer, like, you know, and then the pandemic, well, I already said, and then the pandemic, but like, I sort of like just ended up like getting like super into like community organizing and all this stuff, and like that became like way more important to me than like anything in the world. And like that's kind of where I'm at right now. And like I still love music, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know, just my priority shifted like a lot.
I mean, yeah, when the whole world stops, it kind of does. And we'll go in more depth in just a second. But I have a question about your new, the latest EP, Star Anise.
Thank you.
This past to have a little bit of a listening party. It was interesting because like I was outside just jamming by myself. My neighbors were kind of like, this dude never goes outside. I was like, I was feeling it, man. It was dope. In fact, when I do my weekly promo, I use one of your songs in my little promo thing, and people hit me up like, "Oh my gosh, who is this? This is like a new artist."
Really?
Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's what you know you're impacting people, Kira. But like, let's talk about this. I mean, how did that release come through during the pandemic? I mean, what was the process in writing it? I mean, what was the inciting incident for you to make this happen?
Well, like I did not expect to do anything like that at all, and like it had already come after the time that I was saying where like I kind of like was not doing the singer-songwriter thing anymore. Like I wasn't even really writing like at all. And then I had a breakup and I was just like in such a bad, I was so depressed. Like I was like just not in a good place after this breakup. And like I just started writing again, which like I did not expect at all. And like I started writing these songs and I was like, oh, these are actually like pretty good. And like, you know, my best friend is like an amazing songwriter and I like look up to her so much. And like, you know, I send them to her and she was like, yeah, these are really good. Like you should like record them. And I was like, I guess, but I don't really like do that anymore. Like, how do I do that in COVID? And I've always been like really just like horrible at like self-recording and self-producing. Like, not only do I not really know much about it, but I just like hated doing it because like, you know, I would just get in my head about like recording a million takes and being like, oh, this all sounds like shit and blah blah. So I was like, yeah, that sounds cool, but like I don't know. But then I just like I kept writing and I was like, oh, I like really just want to like put these out there and like, you know, do something with them. And so I just like figured out a way to make it happen. And I like I had originally reached out to my friend Chris Rainier, who mixed the whole EP. And I had wanted him to like record me and like engineer everything because I was like, I don't know how to do it. And he was like, nice. Well, COVID, so like probably not gonna have you like come over to my house, you know, and like take off your mask and sing. And I was like, respect. But he was like, if you want, he's like, I can just like get on Zoom with you and like teach you how to do everything yourself. And I was like, okay. And so he like told me like what equipment to buy. I bought the equipment he told me to buy, and like he kind of just helped me walk me through everything. And I just watched like a ton of like YouTube tutorials and like looked up all the stuff and was annoying him and texting him all the time about like positioning the mic on the amp and borrowing guitars from my friends and like all this crazy stuff, and like just somehow made it happen and like produced the whole thing myself. And then like I got you know, two of my friends who are like an amazing bass player and drummer who I like idolize. Like they played on it, which was awesome. And like, yeah, I just threw it together myself, and it was crazy, but I was super proud of it. And it was definitely like I grew so much like in the process of like recording it and like writing those songs, and like putting it out there was like the best like form of like closure, you know?
Absolutely. We'll give a shout out to Flap coming through the chat. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate you. The meaning of Star Anise, like what was the stuff? Because I mean, it literally is. I mean, the cover, it's like it's a hand holding a bunch of Star Anise. Like, what was the meaning behind that?
Well, oh wait, you kind of froze there. Are we back? Okay. Yes, the person who broke up with me was. I feel like I'm slandering him. He's fine. But
he'd be okay.
He's okay. Like, you know, we cool, I guess. But he was like really good at cooking. And like the very last time that I was like at his apartment and he was cooking for me, he like asked me to get it from the spice cabinet. And I remember looking at the jar and be like, that sounds like a cool name for a song. And then he broke up with me.
It's funny how we tie memories to things, man. Like I I have the last meal that I had with my ex-girlfriend was mozzarella sticks, and I have not had one since. I totally get it. It's
They're
weird.
tainted forever.
It changes, yeah. You're like, how dare you? So, besides the music things, I think Star Anise is great. If you guys have not checked it out, you gotta check it out. It's available on DistroKid and Spotify, wherever dope music is available. But you had mentioned before that other things were popping during 2020. I'm just an understatement to say the least, because 2020 was a whole different deal. But you leaned more into activism. Now, I ask people who do that, was there really like a fear before then to lean into that, or was it kind of like it was a calling and you said, no, this is how I feel like my next step is going to be? What was your experience going into that?
Yeah, I like, honestly, before the pandemic, I was never really like super involved in like much of anything like political or organizing. And like, I think everyone has that like hesitancy of like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and like, where do I start? And like, it's all so much, which is like valid, but like, I think, you know, over the pandemic, like so much happened, and like, you know, like the immense issues of like police brutality and like racism in America were just like pushed to the forefront. I mean, they've always been around, but it's like, it, you know, it just like got to the point where like, you know, the entire like world is watching, and like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm like not going to post about it because like, I don't know. Or like, you know, it's like, you can't not say something. And like, you know, so I was just like, you know, like I can't just like be like lukewarm about it anymore. And so I like, you know, just tried to find like every way I could figure out to try and do something and help. And like, you know, just, it seemed like starting locally was like the best way to do that. Cause I, you know, have been very disappointed in like national politics and like, you know, democracy as it stands, and like, you know, like having to put too much faith in like voting for president and like thinking that's going to change everything. And like, I was like, okay, I need to like start locally. And I've like, you know, grew up my whole life in LA. And so I just like tried to tap into like, I don't know, just like Instagram has like been like almost like my news, like, you know, I'm like, because you can just see everything that's happening on the ground. And so like I started getting involved with this org called LA Community Fridges. And they're like a network of like community run like pantries and fridges that are like open to everyone and like run by the community. And like that was like the first thing I've ever really done like in mutual aid, and just like got super into it. And like I think one of the best things about it, and a lot of like the kind of more like horizontal like mutual aid orgs that like aren't structured like nonprofits or charities, it's like, you know, you can just jump in and like immediately like find a way to help, or like say your idea or like whatever, and no one's like, oh, you're not like, you have to approve it with the board, or like there is no board, like it's just like you know. So I thought that was like really empowering, especially as someone who had like never done anything like that before and was like, oh, like how do I help, and like what do we do? And it's like, here you go, like get in there, like just do something. So it was really cool, like kind of having that as my introduction, and like just through that like meeting so many cool people in LA and like learning more about like the concept of mutual aid, and like, you know, which then like opens your eyes to like the just plethora of horror how the city treats unhoused people, especially during the pandemic. And like, you know, the fact that like we had to like set up a bunch of like guerrilla fridges to like make sure that like unhoused people don't die, like is insane. Like, you know, like I'm always like, we shouldn't even, like, it's awesome that we have these, but like we shouldn't even have to have these. So on one hand, like it's awesome to like see it happen and get involved, but then like the more you do get involved, you just see like how messed up everything is, and like it's hard not to get like hopeless about it. But like, I don't know, I guess the way I like try to maintain not being hopeless is to just like do more and like try to help, and like feel like I'm trying to fight against that. so yeah, like LA Community Fridge was like kind of my intro to that, and then got really involved with like Street Watch and like organizing with unhoused folks like in the
I think she froze a bit.
Oh,
you're back. You're back. I think we're freezing on each other's.
oh.
Yeah, I think we're freezing on each other's. But,
oh no!
But because you're freezing on mine. And yeah, this is live TV, yo. This is live internet. This is what happens all the time. But I guess there's a lot to unpack there because I felt like as young as I'm young-ish. I'm not like young. I'm eligible to be president of the United States. So I'm kind of young. There's always this thing they say about, hey, young kids don't get involved. From someone on the younger side yourself, why do you think that is from your perspective? Why do we take a little longer to find our own political or community awakening?
That's a tough question to answer. I do feel like more and more like younger people are getting much more involved and like being more aware of what's going on, which is like really cool to see. And I feel like the younger generation is like really waking up and like really pushing hard for stuff, which is like really cool. But I guess I think there's a lot we don't know, and that is very much on purpose. Like, you know, like oppressing forces like don't want people to know like how they're being oppressed, or like they don't want people to know about the stuff going on behind the scenes. And like, you know, that was like something very interesting that I was learning about like over the pandemic. I also volunteered a little bit for like Nithya Raman's city council campaign, and just like learning more about like her campaign, her platform, and like the, you know, person she was running against, and like how city council works and how there's like such a lack of transparency, and like there's such a lack of awareness in the community of like what does city council even do, and like where are they making these decisions, and like why don't we know about this? And it's like it's all on purpose because like of course when people are doing sneaky things like they don't want you to know, and like so
facts.
So like yeah, like I mean I didn't really know what city council does, or like what, you know, why it's important, or like how much power they have, or like whatever. And like plenty of people are in the same boat. I mean, I was phone banking and like calling people and being like, do you know who your city council person is? Do you know what they do? And a lot of people were like, I don't know. And like, I'm like, well, I guess I don't really blame you, but like, you should know. I think, you know, there's just a lack of information and a lack of transparency. And I think, you know, that's why, you know, some people are hesitant to get involved, or just don't know that they should be involved, because there's just not enough information out there unless you really, you know, with intention look for it, which I think, you know, we all should do. It is the first step.
Here's kind of a semi-personal question, but has there been an issue that you feel deeply strong about that has garnered the most controversy in your opinion?
I mean, so many, but and it's hard to say because like I am like kind of, you know, very in like the leftist LA community. So like even a lot of the stuff that I support that's like very, you know, controversial is still like sort of in my circle. Like we all agree on it, but like I guess like, you know, police abolition is a big one. Like I am very anti-police, right. And you know, I think there's like there's a large spectrum of opinion on that, you know, between like police reform and like less police or like this and that. But in my opinion, like I think the safest world is cop free. And especially judging by what's happened, I don't really agree on like witnessing the events of just history, being able to look at that and like justify like giving more funding to police or defending them, you know, which we've obviously seen a lot of debate on as of late.
So just for someone who's not quite familiar, so abolition is like a complete removal then in that case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Flappuccino says, it's funny how we have the most information at our disposal, yet we know so little because of personal investment. Even beyond that, even if you look, you can't find anything. Frustrating. Word. Say less, fam. Well, what about yourself? Are you going to run for any kind of office in LA or local?
No.
Why the quick no? This is a super quick no.
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like 50-50 on my feelings about electoral politics. On one hand, like, I feel like very distrustful of them in a lot of ways. Like, it's hard to like enact real change through electoral politics. But then also, like, there are a lot of people like running within that who I like feel very strongly about. Like my friend Albert Corrado, he's running for city council in District 13 against Mitch O'Farrell, and like I worked on his campaign, and I like feel very strongly about it. So even though, like, I don't know, in some cases I'm like, electoral, but then in some cases I'm like, yes, you definitely should win. And like, I mean, it's like, it's going to take so long to like dismantle the system as it is. So like in the meantime, while we're trying to do that, like to be able to get like radical progressive candidates who are willing to put themselves through that, go into that system and try to change it. I do support that. But I personally do not think I could handle the scrutiny of running for public office and just like the amount of like hatred I would probably get and like suffering and then going into office and then having to like, like if I were to like today get into city council, like probably the only person I would really agree with is like Nithya, and then everyone else would probably be fighting like every single thing I'm trying to do. Like, I don't think my mental health can withstand that.
It's hard, yeah. But you got one voter. Flap, Kira from LA Mayor. Bog. All right.
I mean, yeah.
Hey, all you need is one. Or you need like thousands, but one is what sorry. But from an activist point of view and someone who's lived through the events of the last year you had mentioned before, I mean, how has BLM and Stop AAPI Hate affected you personally over the course of the year as a creator, as an activist, as a citizen, as a human being, if you will?
I mean, I think like it's amazing, like the national and like global attention that has been brought to these issues. I mean, it also sucks that it had to come to like so many literal murders for like people to like really pay attention to it. But, like I'm glad that people are, and like more people are like awakening to these facts and like trying to get involved, and like probably a lot of people who under other circumstances like would be hesitant to, or like who don't know what to do. Like, there's so much more information on this like readily available that's like, it's not just like a little like niche like activism thing anymore. It's like, if you want to be a decent person, like, like you need to pay attention to this and learn about it and like be in support of it. So I think that, is amazing. And like, I'm glad to see more people waking up to that. Obviously as an Asian American, like the, recent murders had an impact on me and my family, and just like, it's a little like my identity as an Asian American is like strange for me because I'm biracial and I'm like half white, and I am like kind of white passing. So like, I still, experience a lot of white privilege. But my mom is Japanese, and like, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's fucked up to see this happen, and also to have people sort of like, I'm sure you could probably relate to this, but like sometimes when these things happen, people like act like racism has just begun and they're like just finding out about it, and like people are texting like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about racism. And
Tell me everything.
Yeah, I know. Like, I've been tired of it. Like, this didn't just start yesterday. Like, my grandma was in like the internment camps. Like, so I like, and on one hand, like, I am grateful that like, oh, people are finding out about it and they want to learn and they're reaching out. But then there's this also another part of me that's just like, okay, like, yeah, I know. Like,
Right.
let's do something about it.
Do you get the people asking if you to explain things to them?
I mean, sometimes, thankfully, like not too many, especially like a lot of the people who are like really close to me, like do know about those things and like we do talk about those things. So, not super often, but I know like my mom has like experienced that like a lot,
Yeah.
which is frustrating.
Right.
You know, feeling like you have to like either like justify your views on things or like, you know, make your experience like sound more like valid or like palatable to someone when it's like,
Right.
yeah, people are like literally getting murdered. Like, I don't want to waste my time like trying to make the experience like more easy for you to understand or something. Like, it's a lot of like emotional labor, especially like directly after like finding out about something like this. It's like, you know, you don't want to have to like talk about it to like 50 white people.
No, I got you. Yeah. Did you do any protests at all, or did you do any kind of demonstrations within your art or this last year?
I mean, through most of the pandemic, I did not do any in-person actions just because of COVID. And I live with my
Sure.
parents and they're older and high risk. And like, so even when I was like first getting involved with Street Watch, I didn't like actually do any like on the ground stuff. I was just like, I'll drive all the supplies around and like, you know, finding other ways to get involved.
Yeah.
So my first like action that I went to during the pandemic was just a car caravan.
That
But it was
counts.
really cool. Yeah. And it was throughout like most of downtown. It was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it was like a freedom ride for housing justice. And it was like led by like unhoused folks that we organized with, and like it was really cool to see like so many people showed up to that. So that was like my first thing was just in my car.
Yeah. Respect.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I didn't mean to bring down a show that bad, but it's so cool to see the other side of it, you know, because we talked about this before we went live. My political career was very short. It was like 2.5 months, and I was like, I'm out. It was kind of interesting to see the issues needed, the perception or the opinions of said issues, especially in LA with the unsheltered or unhoused. I think the unsheltered is the term we use now. Everyone has their own reasons or what they should and should not do about human beings. And it's like, oh my goodness, you killing me. Like it, to me, it was an awakening in all the worst ways. And that's why I got out. So props for you for sticking with it and working with your organizations as well.
Thanks. Yeah. I think like the most important thing is to like be listening to whoever is like most impacted and like make sure that those people are involved with the decision. And like, you know, like one of the biggest problems with like how the city treats and house people is they make all of these like huge decisions about them and their safety, and they don't invite them to participate in those conversations. And then they just come to them and are like, yeah, like, why don't you want to come to my shelter? And it's like, you didn't even ask me like what I thought of it. So it's like,
right.
You know, like, you know, anything involved with unhoused people, like you need to be asking them like, what do they think? And like, how do they want to see this play out? And like, I think that applies to anything. Yeah.
If I could ask a personal question, with everything going on, like what do you do for fun? How do you decompress? It just sounds like I'll be up in my bed being like, oh my God, the world is screwed. Like, what do you?
Yeah, I cry a lot. I cry so much. It's very traumatic. I mean, obviously less traumatic for me than it is for like unhoused people who are like literally getting harassed. And but it is like, you know, very traumatic work. And like I think anyone who works in this would definitely agree. And we all talk about that. Yeah, what do I do for fun? I like my main source of income is I like do music classes with babies and toddlers, and like that has like kept me sane because it's like these little kids who like are pure and like not yet jaded by the trauma of the world, and like we just like dance around with scarves, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. This is great. So that definitely has been one of my
virtually you teach them how to use xylophones. Like how does that work?
No, I mean, honestly, like they're all called classes, but I'm not really teaching them. We're just like having fun with music together because they're so little. It's hard to like actually be like,
oh, gotcha,
play the guitar. Like, So yeah, over the pandemic, it was mostly virtual, obviously. And yeah, the company I work with, was great in like, figuring out how to shift things. And like, we were doing live streams and then Zoom. Yeah, I've done so many Zoom birthday parties, which I'm like, I feel so bad that these kids have to have their birthday parties on Zoom. But I'm glad we found a way to like make it happen and have them like still have fun. And then, once more people were getting vaccinated and restrictions were lifting, like we've been able to do like, some outdoor like social distance play groups and things like that, which is we froze again. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right.
The dramatic pause.
Yeah. Again, it's weird because it looks like you're frozen, but then like I'm probably frozen to you, and so
yeah,
that's what happens with this teleconferencing thing. So yes, Zoom and StreamYard, I'll tell you. But
no, my Wi-Fi, man. I'm sorry.
It happens. Trust me. Sometimes I do a wrestling show on Thursdays, and like right before I go live at noon, like the internet will like surge. I'm like, don't do this to me, Spectrum. I swear to God, I'm going live every.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's kind of fun working with children, showing them the way.
Yeah, it's the best. Like like I've been really lucky, and like all the kids I work with are just like so sweet, and like just seeing like how like music makes them so happy. It's just like really nice.
Yeah. Wow. Just hanging with Kira Morrison, doing big things, whatever space it will be. But before we get out of here, Kira, are you down to play a game with me? Are you down?
Sure. Let's try it out. Yeah.
If you said no, that'd be really awkward. Okay. He's like,
I object.
That's
good. Where I draw the line.
This one we've only played once before. This one's called Color Coded, and what it is, I'm going to give you a fact about a color and turn that into a question that you can answer or not if you don't want to. The color this time is black, as in the actual color black.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
It's only like 7 of these. You're fine.
Okay.
All right. Color Coded black starts now. In the late 20th century, black was associated with countercultures such as goth and punk. Have you ever been part of a counterculture or unique subculture?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I guess what I'm doing now is sort of counterculture, like anarcho-socialism. Does that count?
If you brand it like that, it does. Wow. Along with gold, the color black is typically associated with elegance. Where has been the most elegant place you've ever visited?
Oh, I guess England, because that's like the cliche answer.
Yeah. What'd you do? Did you go do the London thing? Did you go to Manchester, Liverpool?
Well, I went with my family, and we went to London, and we also went to, I believe my great aunt lives in York. And once we got to her house, it was the very traditional, like, showed up and we had like champagne and strawberries like in her backyard, and she's like, if you could picture just like the classic like little old English lady, like that's her for sure.
Oh, wow.
So that was very cute. And actually she was the person who gave me my very first sip of champagne at 18 months old.
She's down.
Yeah. She's cool. Shout out to Aunt May.
Oh, respect, man. Black was worn by Benedictine monks as a sign of humility and penitence. Excuse me. How does Kira describe her faith or belief system?
Oh, interesting. I guess probably more on the atheist side. But I do like enjoy like learning about like kind of the more spiritual side of stuff, and like I was talking about like tarot and like believing in like the power of the universe and like soulmates. Like I definitely believe in that kind of more like spiritual, magical stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey,
yeah.
It's all frequencies, man.
Yes.
It sounds
vibrations.
Like yeah, it's all vibrations, man. The color black was one of the first colors used in art. Cave paintings featured black ink, if you can imagine that. Has there been a situation where you were the first to do something? Trailblazer? Pioneer even?
Oh, that's a great question. Another question where I'm like, I'm sure I have a great answer for this that I will think of like in 3 hours and be like, damn, I should have said that.
Just lying in bed like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give myself a time limit before I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna think of a good answer. But let me marinate.
Or come back to it? Or are you gonna first to do something? The first.
Okay, we can come back to it maybe. Yeah. I can't think of anything right now.
Coco Chanel is credited with the popular concept of the little black dress. Speaking of fashion, how would you describe your style?
Oh, I wear a lot of graphic tees, and I love statement earrings or anything that has like a funny, like sarcastic message on it.
Yeah.
And wearing lots of crystals, yeah, my clothing style varies, I would say. It's not a very
So how would you brand it? How would you brand it?
Fancy street.
I love it. Which sounds like a British like drama, like after Coronation Street, it's Fancy Street on BBC4.
You don't want to know what happens down on Fancy Street. There's too much drama.
And lastly, if you don't go back to the other one, Black Friday is one of the biggest shopping holidays of the year. Life is more than just about things, but what would you say is your greatest possession?
Oh, another good question.
It could be friendship or harmony if you want to be.
Oh,
that's essential.
The universe is my greatest possession. I want to say my guitar, but I feel like there's probably a better answer than that. You hear my parents talking outside. Yeah, I'll go with my guitar for now.
A guitar is an investment. And before we wrap this up, that pioneer question: first time to do anything, first person to do anything.
Dang it! Why can't I think of a good answer for this?
First in your family to break dance? I don't know.
I mean, I guess I'm probably the first person in my family to like get a degree in music, or the only, at least within like my like immediate family and like
first and only
aunts and uncles and cousins. Yeah.
I think that counts. And
yeah.
Well, that does it for that. You did pretty well. I mean, it wasn't that bad, was it?
No, it was fun. Yes.
So before we get out of here, Kira, it's been a fantastic time chatting with you, getting to know you more. If anyone want to check you out online or just check the music out or even hit you up when they're in Los Angeles and know who to vote for the next elections, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Kira to the Rescue. That's my handle. And my website is kiramorrisonmusic.com, which I have not updated in a hot minute. I got to go check and make sure it's still accurate.
What?
And those are probably the two places that you can find me.
Oh, fantastic. I want you back in a future episode because this is a lot of fun.
Yay!
Hanging and chat with you. This is Wassup Flobo After Hours. We're back here every Monday night, 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Tuesday Eastern. If you're on the East Coast watching this, bless you, because I'm tired and I'm old. That does it for me. Learn more about the show at newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW, Amsterdam.com. But until next time, After Hours are closed. The bed is still